Welcome to the Breakfast Blend. I'm Erin, and this is Diana. Thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah. I know it's basically called the Chi Alpha Drip, but me and Erin do not like coffee.
No,
so this
we
is
don't.
all a facade. I have tea.
I also have some tea here.
Sorry, I know it's blasphemy. I just don't like coffee. It's not good. Sorry.
Yeah, we fully understand if you want to turn the video off now. So
You're welcome to leave. So as we're recording this, you guys are away from community. It is our winter break, and for Texas Tech, it's been it's going to be a 2-month thing.
Yeah.
So it could have been a week that you guys have left, or maybe even a month. And I know that's hard because when I left community after my first semester, coming to know Jesus, I just went back into my old habits. I got back to my house and I just hung out with all my old friends and wasn't really spending time with Jesus. What was it like when you came back?
Yeah, especially my first time coming back to live with my family after I had gone to college. It was really weird because I thought that everything would just be the same because I had been there 3 months before. But it wasn't. I was a different person, and my family didn't really know Jesus, and so being around them and trying to serve them was really hard because I didn't have people every day telling me to serve and telling me spend time with Jesus. So yeah, it was really hard for me to choose to spend time with Jesus rather than sleeping in all day or just letting my mom do all of the housework or things like that. So
yeah. So how can we combat these negative emotions that we might be feeling going into the break or just being with our family? I know when I was gone, I felt a sort of emptiness there because I was I'm not with my friends. This is weird. And it's really, we have to be pressing into Jesus, even when we're without community and even when we're with community, because if we're not doing that, then we're not drawing closer to the Lord. And so today we'll be talking about making your mission field is where your feet are. What even is the mission?
Yeah, so in Mark 16:15, it says, "Go into the whole world and proclaim the gospel to every creature." So what's the mission? The mission is discipleship. The mission is telling people about Jesus and equipping them to tell other people about Jesus. Just like the verse said, we want the whole world to know who Jesus is, and that starts with us. So
today we'll be talking about 3 main topics that I really believe help us walk out this truism. So the first one is, how are we showing the gospel? That's basically the Great Commission, is to go and preach the gospel to the ends of the earth. And so how can we do this effectively with our friends and with our family when we're back home? And we have to basically be spending time with Jesus. And that's the only way we can show him to others. And we have to realize what a devotional life really looks like. It's not just reading here or there. Mm-hmm. For some people, it could look like, oh, I'm reading 3 hours every morning, praying for 2 hours, doing all this stuff. And for other people, if they're busy, even through this break, if you're still working, or even when you come back to school, you're I have so many things to do. It could be, oh, I have 10 minutes after class so I can read a little bit of this book before I go to my next class. Or it could be, I can pray before I go to sleep. I can make that a time that I really carve out to be with Jesus. It's all about abiding with the Lord and really spending time with the Lord.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think too, devotional life, yes, is making use of the 10 minutes in between class. Instead of being on your phone, let's pray or spend time with the Lord, or even just be thinking about a verse or that you heard or something that you read. But it really is being sacrificial with your time. So making a point to carve out time to spend with him, not just the little moments, but using those and maybe sacrificing some other things so that you can spend time with Jesus. I've been recently really motivated to do that with prayer because vulnerability, my prayer life hasn't been great. And so I've been intentionally carving out time in the morning to pray, and I think that's what we have to do wherever we're at, whether it be home or with your coworkers or on campus or whatever you're doing, sacrificial devotional life.
Yeah. Because, Jesus calls us for sacrificial living. So
Yes.
that is the thing that we're going to have to do.
Yes.
And the next thing that we can be doing to share the gospel effectively is, just sharing what we've learned. And so if we're already abiding with Jesus, then it'll be a natural outflow for us to do that. It's like, hey, I read this book by Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Let me share everything about it. Recently, I'm really into F.W. Borum now, and so I read this one chapter, and I was like, okay, guys, let me tell you everything that I learned, because it was so good. And then the next thing is praying for people publicly and privately. Like, how can we say that we want someone to come to know Jesus if we're not praying that their hearts can be softened and can be open to the gospel that we're sharing to them? Even when people like tell you like, hey, this is what's happening in my life, I'm having a hard time, not just doing the whole thing where you're like, oh, okay, well, I'll pray for you when I go home, but actually laying hands on them and praying for them and showing them that this is how you seek Jesus, like this is how you have a prayer life. Yeah,
because we don't want to just like say we're doing it and even do it at home, but we want to model it as well. That's what the mission is.
And so the next thing is, how are we serving? In Acts 20:35, it says, "In all things I have shown you, that by working hard in this way, we must help the weak, and remember the words of the Lord Jesus, how he himself said, it is more blessed to give than to receive." Even like with that quote, you're like, okay, it's more blessed to give than receive. So how am I giving back to the community that I'm in? That can start off with even serving your local church. It could be, you could go to like a mega church and really just fall into the crowd of people that go there. But we have to actively be like going out and like saying, okay, where is the staff? Who can I ask to like serve this church? How can I help in children's church or cleaning them afterwards or greeting people? Because that's so important. Like God wants us to love our church. And if we choose not to go to church, that we're missing a part of God's character.
Absolutely.
Even when you're at home with your family, everyone falls into this. Your mom's like, okay, you've changed, but you telling me that you love Jesus and you changed, but you still come home and do all the things that you did before you left. And so it's like being the first one to wash the dishes, being the first one to want to help cook dinner or go buy groceries for your mom, just like being there to serve your family. Yeah,
especially if they don't know Jesus, because if you're telling them like, I know this Jesus and he's making me better, and they're like, well, you never clean, like you've got clothes everywhere. Oof. That doesn't represent Jesus well at all.
And we're supposed to be a representation of Christ, and we're not going to be that if we're still like having a bad attitude when they tell us to do something so simple. Another thing you could be doing is initiating hangouts, not just with like your Chi Alpha friends, but also with people that don't love Jesus well, like your old high school friends. I go back home and my friends don't do the same things that I do, but it doesn't mean that I can just stop loving them. And so even though I know the things that they enjoy the most is like doing things that aren't godly, I still am trying to make it a point to hang out with them. Like, hey, let's go to a coffee shop to get work done, because they're like working full-time jobs, or saying like, okay, hey, let's go to Six Flags. I live in Dallas, and so and those things are like making things more fun in like showing them like, oh, I don't need to be doing all this like bad stuff to have fun, but showing them like, hey, I have Jesus, so this is why it's fun just to be in your presence.
Oh yeah, that's so good.
And the last topic is, how are we preparing for if we're going to a new mission field? And so let's say you're graduating, or just going back home, or starting a new job. Like, what can we be doing to like really be pouring into Jesus? And so 1 Timothy 4:8 says, "For bodily discipline is only of little profit, but godliness is profitable for all things, since it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come." So basically this is saying, if bodily discipline only provides little profit, then godliness is the most profitable thing that we can do. So prayer is the most, it's so essential. Basically, if we're not praying and asking the Lord to show us, like, how can I be praying for the people I'm going to meet? How can I be ready for this new mission field I'm going into? How can I be showing you in this new environment? Because it's so easy that when we leave any sort of community, rather it be small or big, we will fall back into our old ways if we're not looking towards Jesus, not looking for vision for what he has for our life. And so that's why I think prayer is essential. I read so many books on prayer, Christ in the School of Prayer by Andrew Murray, or Adventures in Prayer by Catherine Marshall.
So good. Both of those are great.
Recommend those. That really helped shape my prayer life of like, okay, this is how I pray to Jesus. Not just like a 10-minute thing, but like being on your knees for 2 hours, like on your face, being like, God, like really work in me. Let me surrender these rights that I have in my life so that I can walk out and glorify you in everything I do.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. This is all the time we have to talk about your mission field being where your feet are, but you can see it in people, especially people who love Jesus, that their mission field really is where their feet are. But I want to leave you with one final thought for our time. 1 Corinthians 10:31 says, "Whether you eat or drink or whatever you do all for the glory of God." And so wherever your mission field is, whether it be here at Texas Tech campus, at another campus, whether it be at home with your family, or maybe at work with your job, what can you do to glorify God? What can you do to further that discipleship, to further that mission? What is your sphere of people? Where are your feet? And how can you glorify God with that? So thank you guys for joining us.